Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Titan's Wrath and watched the stars through the massive viewing window. The ship stretched 15 kilometers in front of him and behind him, a floating city of metal and weapons that humanity had built for their first journey into deep space. Jake had gray hair and scars on his face from the Sol Defense Wars, when Earth fought against pirates and raiders in their own solar system. Now he commanded 50,000 people aboard this giant ship as they traveled further from home than any human had ever gone before. Chief Engineer Lisa Bell walked up to Jake with a worried look on her face. She carried a data pad that showed energy readings from their sensors. Lisa had worked on ships for 20 years and knew when something was not normal. The readings on her pad showed strange signals coming from a star system ahead of them, signals that did not match anything in their databases. "Captain, we are picking up unusual energy patterns from the system ahead," Lisa said as she handed Jake the data pad. "The computer cannot identify what is making these signals, but they are very strong and very organized." Jake looked at the readings and frowned. The energy patterns were unlike anything humans had seen before. They seemed to pulse in regular waves, almost like a heartbeat, and they were coming from multiple sources in the same area. This could mean only one thing: intelligent life. First Officer Danny Rodriguez joined them at the captain's chair. Danny was young but smart, and Jake trusted his judgment. Danny looked at the data and shook his head slowly. He had studied alien contact procedures at the academy, but this was the first time they might actually need to use them. "Sir, should we proceed with caution?" Danny asked. "We don't know what we might find in that system, and our ship is designed for combat, not first contact." Jake thought about this for a moment. The Titan's Wrath was indeed built for fighting. Every surface bristled with weapons, railguns that could punch holes through asteroids, plasma cannons that could melt steel, and missile tubes loaded with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The ship's armor was thick enough to survive. Direct hits from nuclear weapons, and its engines could push the massive vessel to incredible speeds. To humans, it was a practical design for exploring dangerous space. They had learned from the Sol Defense Wars that space was full of threats, and they wanted to be ready for anything. The ship's AI, which the crew called Atlas, spoke through the bridge speakers. Atlas had been programmed with all of human military knowledge and was designed to help them survive in hostile environments. The AI's voice was calm and mechanical, but Jake had learned to trust its analysis. "Captain, I have completed my scan of the energy signatures," Atlas said. "The patterns suggest a large artificial structure, possibly a space station or orbital facility. The energy output indicates advanced technology, potentially more advanced than our own." Lisa looked at her readings again and pointed to a specific section of the data. "Captain, the energy levels are massive. Whatever is out there, it's using more power than our entire ship. That means either very advanced technology or something very big." Jake made his decision. Humanity had not come this far to turn back. At the first sign of alien life, they were explorers, even if their ship looked like a weapon of war. "We proceed to investigate," he said, "but we stay alert and ready for anything." The Titan's Wrath changed course toward the unknown signals. As they got closer, their sensors began to pick up more details. What they found was beyond anything they had imagined. A massive structure hung in space near a blue giant star, bigger than any space station humans had ever built. It was beautiful and elegant, made of materials that seemed to glow with their own light. Strange ships moved around it like fish swimming around a coral reef, but the humans did not know that their arrival had already been detected. The beings living on the space station had sensors too, and what they saw terrified them. A huge ship was approaching their peaceful home, a ship covered in weapons and armor. To the aliens, the Titan's wrath looked like nothing but a weapon designed to destroy planets. They had never seen anything so scary in all their years of peaceful space travel. The alien beings had lived in peace for thousands of years. Their ships were small and beautiful, designed for art and trade and exploration. They had no weapons because they had never needed weapons. War was something they had read about in old history books, not something they expected to encounter in real life. As the Titan's wrath got closer, the aliens' fear grew stronger. This monster ship was bigger than their entire station and carried enough weapons to destroy their entire civilization. The aliens began to panic and send emergency messages to other worlds, warning them about the terrible warship that had entered their space. Jake stood on his bridge and watched the alien station grow larger on their screens. He thought it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The humans had no idea that their ship was causing panic and terror among the peaceful aliens. To Jake and his crew, they were just explorers who had found something wonderful. They had no way of knowing that their practical warship looked like a nightmare to beings who had only known peace. The distance between the two very different species grew smaller with each passing moment, and neither side understood what the other was thinking. The aliens saw a monster ship full of warriors coming to destroy them. The humans saw a beautiful station and hoped to make peaceful contact with a new species. Both sides were about to learn that first contact was much more complicated than anyone had imagined. Atlas continued to scan the alien station and reported his findings to the bridge crew. The AI's sensors were designed for military analysis, so everything it detected was described in terms of potential threats and defensive capabilities. This would soon make the situation much worse than anyone could have predicted. The leader of the ethereal collective floated in the center of the station's command chamber, her body glowing with soft blue light as she tried to stay calm. Her species communicated through beautiful musical sounds, and right now she was trying to create the most peaceful greeting song she knew. The other alien species on the station gathered around her, all of them scared, but hoping their leader could somehow make contact with the terrifying ship that was getting closer. The song she sang was ancient and sacred, a melody that meant, "Welcome, peaceful travelers, we wish you no harm and hope for friendship." It was the first greeting their people had used for thousands of years when meeting new species. The leader put all her hope and kindness into the song, broadcasting it toward the human ship with their most powerful transmitters. Lieutenant Amy Turner sat at the communications station on the Titan's Wrath, wearing headphones and monitoring all frequencies for any signs of alien contact. She was young and excited about the possibility of first contact, but she was also trained in military protocols that assumed all unknown signals could be threats. When the alien song reached their ship, Amy's computer systems immediately began, trying to translate it. The translation computer had been programmed during the Sol Defense Wars, when humanity fought against raiders and pirates who often sent fake surrender messages before attacking. The military programmers had designed the system to look for hidden threats in all communications, assuming that anyone contacting them in space might be an enemy trying to trick them. The beautiful alien song went into the translation computer, which tried to match the musical patterns to known human languages and military codes. The computer found similarities between certain notes in the song and audio patterns used in weapon targeting systems. The musical harmony reminded the computer of the sound that human missiles made when they locked onto targets. Amy's screen flashed red as the translation appeared. Incoming weapons lock. Prepare for termination sequence. Hostile intent confirmed. The computer had turned the aliens' peaceful greeting into what looked like a declaration of war. Amy's training took over immediately. She hit the alarm button and shouted across the bridge, "Captain, we're receiving what appears to be a weapons lock warning from the alien station. They're telling us to prepare for termination." Captain Jake Morrison felt his heart jump as the battle alarm started screaming throughout the ship. 50,000 crew members heard the sound and began running to their combat positions. Jake had hoped for peaceful first contact, but his military experience told him to trust his crew and his equipment. If Amy said they were being targeted, then they were in danger. "Battle stations," Jake commanded. "All weapon systems online. Defensive postures." The Titan's Wrath transformed from an exploration vessel into a weapon of war in less than 30 seconds. Massive gun turrets rotated toward the alien station, their targeting computers painting the beautiful structure with laser designators. Energy began flowing to the plasma cannons, creating a humming sound that could be heard throughout the ship. Missile tubes opened and armed their deadly cargo, ready to fire at Jake's command. From the alien station, the sight was absolutely terrifying. The monster ship had responded to their peaceful greeting by pointing enough firepower to destroy planets directly at their home. Every weapon on the human ship was now aimed at the aliens, and energy readings showed that the humans were preparing to fire. The alien leader's song turned into a scream of fear. Other aliens throughout the station began crying and running for emergency shelters that were never designed to protect against weapons as powerful as the ones pointing at them. Children were taken to the center of the station while adults tried to figure out how to surrender to beings who seemed intent on destroying them. Dr. Helen Carter ran onto the bridge, her face red from running through the ship's corridors. She was the ship's expert on alien life, and she had been studying the readings from the station since they first detected it. Everything she saw suggested a peaceful, advanced civilization, not a military threat. "Captain, wait!" Helen shouted, over the noise of the battle alarms. "The energy signatures from that station don't match any weapon systems. Their ships are too small to be fighters, and I'm detecting life signs consistent with families and civilians." But Jake's military training was hard to ignore. His translation computer said the aliens had threatened to terminate them, and his ship was now surrounded by unknown vessels. Even if the alien ships were small, there were hundreds of them, and Jake did not know what kind of weapons they might carry. Commander Steve Walsh, the ship's tactical officer, was studying his screens with growing concern. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from the alien station. They might be charging some kind of super weapon. The power levels are off the charts." What Steve was actually detecting was the alien station's emergency power systems coming online as they prepared for what they thought was an imminent attack. The aliens were activating their shields and emergency systems, trying to protect as many people as possible from the human weapons. But to the human sensors, designed to detect military threats, it looked like the aliens were powering up weapons of their own. First Officer Danny Rodriguez tried to make sense of the situation. "Sir, if they wanted to attack us, why would they warn us first? And why haven't they fired yet?" Jake looked at the tactical display showing the alien station and the hundreds of small ships around it. His instincts told him something was wrong, but his training and his equipment were all telling him the same thing. They were in danger and needed to be ready to fight. The tension on both sides continued to grow as more alien ships arrived in the system. Word of the terrifying human vessel had spread through their communication networks, and ships were coming from nearby systems to see this unprecedented threat. But to the humans, it looked like an alien fleet was gathering to attack them. Both sides were now ready for a battle that neither side wanted, all because of a simple misunderstanding between two species who had never met before. The beautiful, alien song still played in the background, but now it sounded like a funeral dirge for the peaceful first contact that might have been. The news traveled faster than light itself through the galaxy's communication networks. Emergency broadcasts flooded the channels as the ethereal collective sent out desperate warnings about the massive human warship that had entered their space. The message was simple, but terrifying. A ship the size of a small moon, covered in planet-killing weapons, had appeared and was threatening their peaceful station with complete destruction. Species across the galaxy received the broadcast and could hardly believe what they were hearing. For thousands of years, the known civilizations had lived in relative peace, with conflicts being resolved through discussion and trade rather than warfare. The idea of a ship designed purely for destruction was almost impossible for most aliens to understand. Commander Steve Walsh stood at his tactical station aboard the Titan's Wrath, watching his sensors with growing amazement. "Captain Morrison, we have over 200 alien vessels in the system now, and more arriving every hour. But, sir, they're keeping their distance, maintaining a perimeter of roughly 50,000 kilometers. Jake Morrison looked at the tactical display and saw the truth of Steve's words. Hundreds of alien ships surrounded them like a massive circle, but none of them were approaching or showing hostile intent. It was as if they were watching from what they considered a safe distance, studying this strange new threat that had appeared in their galaxy. What the humans did not understand was that the aliens were indeed keeping what they thought was a safe distance. The alien ships were equipped with sensors that could detect the Titan's Wrath's massive energy output, and their calculations showed that the human ship could destroy anything within 50,000 kilometers with its conventional weapons. Aliens were not trying to attack. They were trying to stay alive while they figured out what to do about this unprecedented situation. Navigator Kelly James was having problems of her own. Her instruments were showing readings that should have been impossible. "Captain, our engine output is creating some kind of space distortion. I'm reading gravitational anomalies in a sphere around our ship. It's like we're bending space itself just by being here." Kelly was right, though she did not understand the full implications of what she was seeing. The Titan's Wrath's massive. Fusion engines produced so much energy that they were actually affecting the fabric of space-time around the ship. To humans, this was just a side effect of their powerful propulsion system. But to the aliens watching from their distant perimeter, it appeared that the humans had mastered reality-bending technology that could warp space and time at will. The alien observers sent frantic reports back to their homeworlds, describing a ship so advanced and powerful that it could manipulate the basic forces of the universe. The reports painted humans as godlike beings who traveled in weapons that defied the laws of physics as most species understood them. Dr. Helen Carter was in her laboratory trying to make sense of the alien communications they were intercepting. She had managed to piece together fragments of the alien language and was beginning to understand that something had gone terribly wrong with first contact. "Captain, I need to see you immediately. I think we have a serious problem." Jake left the bridge and went to Helen's lab, where she had been working non-stop since the crisis began. Helen showed him her analysis of the alien communications, and Jake felt his heart sink as he realized what had happened. "The aliens are not preparing to attack us, Captain," Helen explained. They're terrified of us. Our translation computer misunderstood their greeting, and now they think we responded to a peaceful message by threatening to destroy them. Look at these intercepts. They're calling us the floating nightmare and the galaxy's doombringer. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the emergency council was forming on the neutral world of Harmony Station. Representatives from dozens of species were arriving to discuss how to deal with what they perceived as the greatest threat their galaxy had ever faced. The humans had no idea that their simple exploration mission had triggered the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. The council members shared their analysis of the human ship with growing alarm. The vessel was 15 kilometers long and massed more than some planets. Its weapons could glass entire continents, and its energy output suggested technology far beyond what most species had achieved. Worst of all, intelligence reports suggested that this might not even be humanity's most powerful ship. It could be just a scout vessel for an even more terrifying fleet. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos was in the Marine Bay, preparing her soldiers for possible combat operations. Maria commanded 5,000 of humanity's best fighters, trained for boarding actions and ground combat. But as she looked at the alien ships on the monitors, she began to realize that her Marines might be part of the problem. "Sergeant Clark, look at those alien vessels," Maria said to her second in command. "They're beautiful. Almost like works of art." "I don't think these people are warriors at all." Sergeant Ben Clark nodded as he studied the graceful alien ships. "Ma'am, our shuttle bay doors are bigger than their entire vessels. If they are fighters, they're not very good ones." Maria was beginning to understand that humanity had arrived at a peaceful gathering in full battle armor, carrying weapons designed for total war. No wonder the aliens were scared. Back on the bridge, Jake was receiving reports from all over his ship about the strange situation they found themselves in. The aliens were not attacking, but they were not leaving either. More ships arrived every hour, and the humans were starting to feel like animals in a zoo, being studied by creatures they could not understand. Chief Engineer Lisa Bell reported that their life support systems were working perfectly, but the crew was getting nervous about being surrounded by so many unknown vessels. "Captain, the crew is asking questions I can't answer. They want to know if we're at war, if we're prisoners, or if we're supposed to be ambassadors. I'm not sure what to tell them." Jake realized that humanity had stumbled into something much bigger than a simple first contact scenario. They had somehow become the center of galactic attention, and every decision they made could affect the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. The reputation of humanity's monster ship continued to grow with each passing hour, as more species learned about the floating nightmare that had appeared in their peaceful galaxy. Security Chief Ryan Brooks had an idea that he thought might help the situation. He suggested to Captain Morrison that they try to show the aliens that humans were peaceful by turning on the ship's external lighting systems. The Titan's Wrath had thousands of lights along its hull designed to help with docking procedures and external maintenance work in the darkness of space. "Captain, if we light up the ship, maybe the aliens will see that we're not trying to hide from them," Ryan said during the morning briefing. "It might show them that we want to communicate." Jake thought this sounded like a reasonable idea. He ordered the external lights activated, and the massive human ship suddenly blazed with illumination against the darkness of space. From the human perspective, it looked beautiful and welcoming, like a city floating among the stars. But to the aliens watching from their careful distance, the sudden appearance of thousands of bright lights looked like something entirely different. Their sensors detected each light as a potential weapon emitter, and the organized pattern of the lights reminded them of targeting arrays they had seen in old military databases. The aliens' fear grew even stronger as they assumed the humans were now actively targeting them with advanced weapon systems. Emergency broadcasts flooded the alien communication networks with reports that the human monster ship had activated what appeared to be thousands of targeting lasers. Panic spread through the gathered fleet as alien commanders tried to figure out how to survive what looked like preparation for a massive attack. Communications Officer Pete Johnson was working closely with Dr. Helen Carter to develop a better translation system. They had realized that the military translation computer was causing more problems than it was solving, so they were trying to build a new program that could handle peaceful communication rather than just military threats. "Dr. Carter, I think I found part of the problem," Pete said as he showed her his analysis of the alien language patterns. "These beings don't seem to have words for many military concepts. When we try to say exploration ship, their language keeps translating it as advanced scouts for invasion fleet." Helen looked at Pete's work and shook her head sadly. "It's worse than that, Pete. These aliens have been at peace for so long that they've forgotten what war looks like. To them, our ship doesn't look like an exploration vessel with defensive weapons. It looks like a purpose-built instrument of destruction." The communication problem was deeper than just language differences. The aliens lived in a galaxy where conflicts were resolved through discussion and compromise. They had no frame of reference for understanding why anyone would build a ship, like the Titan's Wrath, unless they planned to use it for conquest and destruction. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos came up with her own plan to help with the diplomatic situation. She suggested sending a small shuttle to the alien station to show that humans were willing to meet face-to-face in a peaceful setting. Maria volunteered to lead the diplomatic mission herself, thinking that a personal meeting might help clear up the misunderstandings. Jake liked the idea and approved the mission. Maria prepared humanity's standard diplomatic shuttle, a small craft designed for transporting important officials between ships and stations. To humans, it was a modest vehicle, suitable for peaceful meetings. But when the human shuttle launched, from the Titan's Wrath, the aliens saw something that made their terror even worse. What humans considered a small diplomatic vessel was larger than most alien fighter craft, and was equipped with defensive shields and weapon systems that could destroy an entire alien ship. The aliens watched in horror as this small shuttle approached their station, thinking that the humans were sending what amounted to a heavy assault craft as their idea of a peaceful ambassador. The alien leader tried to stay calm as she watched the human shuttle approach. Her people were crying and praying, convinced that their peaceful civilization was about to be destroyed by these terrifying warriors from another part of the galaxy. She made the decision to meet with the humans, hoping that perhaps she could convince them to spare some of her people. Back on the Titan's Wrath, the humans were discovering more things about the aliens that confused them. Dr. Carter had been analyzing the alien station's daily routines and found something strange. "Captain, the aliens only seem to rest for about 2 hours out of every 24-hour cycle," Helen reported. "But our crew needs 8 hours of sleep every day. I think this might be causing additional problems." Jake did not understand what Helen meant until she explained further. The aliens had been watching human activity patterns and were confused by the fact that humans seemed to shut down for 8 hours every day. To alien minds, this suggested either that humans were incredibly inefficient compared to other species, or that they were so supremely confident in their power that they could afford to be unconscious for a third of their existence while surrounded by potential enemies. The aliens interpreted human sleep patterns as a sign of ultimate confidence and superiority. Only a species that had completely mastered warfare would dare to sleep so much while in foreign territory. This made the aliens even more convinced that humans were apex predators who feared nothing in the galaxy. Chief Petty Officer Tony Miller was working in the engineering section when he had an idea that might help the situation. Tony had been thinking about the problem from a practical perspective, and he realized that the aliens might understand humans better if they could see what the ship was actually designed to do. "Captain, what if we show them our manufacturing bays?" Tony suggested during his report to the bridge. "The Titan's Wrath isn't just a warship. It's designed to build colonies and support human life in deep space. Maybe if they see our medical facilities and our food production systems, they'll understand that we're not just here to destroy things." Jake thought this was an excellent idea. The Titan's Wrath was equipped with everything needed to establish human civilization on new worlds. Medical bays that could handle any emergency, manufacturing systems that could build everything from basic tools to complex electronics, and agricultural systems that could feed the entire crew indefinitely. But even this attempt to show peaceful intentions backfired in an unexpected way. When the aliens saw the ship's manufacturing capabilities, they were amazed by the scale and efficiency of human industry. To them, it looked like the humans had built a mobile factory that could produce weapons and equipment at an incredible rate. The aliens concluded that the human ship was not just a weapon of war. It was a self-sustaining war machine that could build more weapons and supplies as needed. This made humans seem even more dangerous because it suggested they could fight indefinitely without needing to return home for supplies, as each attempt at peaceful communication made the situation worse. Both sides began to realize that first contact was much more complicated than anyone had expected. The humans were frustrated by their inability to convince the aliens of their peaceful intentions, while the aliens were terrified by what seemed like an unstoppable force that had entered their galaxy. The stage was set for either a tragic misunderstanding that could lead to galactic war, or a breakthrough that might finally allow both sides to understand each other. Dr. Helen Carter had been awake for 36 hours straight, working desperately to find a solution to the communication crisis that was threatening to tear the galaxy apart. She sat in her laboratory surrounded by alien language samples, energy, readings, and cultural analysis reports, trying to find the key that would unlock understanding between humans and the alien species. The breakthrough came when Helen realized she had been approaching the problem from the wrong direction. Instead of trying to explain what humans were, she needed to understand what the aliens expected them to be. She began studying not just the alien languages, but their history, their technology, and their way of life. What she discovered changed everything. "Captain Morrison, please come to my lab immediately," Helen called over the communication system. "I think I finally understand what went wrong, and I know how to fix it." Jake arrived at Helen's lab to find her practically vibrating with excitement. She had charts and diagrams spread across every surface, and her eyes were bright with the kind of discovery that could change history. "Captain, these aliens haven't had a war in over 3,000 years, Helen explained rapidly. "They don't build warships because they don't need warships. They don't understand military thinking because military thinking is completely foreign to their culture. When they saw our ship, they had no context for understanding it, except as some kind of ultimate weapon." Jake looked at the information Helen had compiled and began to understand. The aliens lived in a galaxy where problems were solved through cooperation and discussion. They had never encountered a species that prepared for conflict because they had never needed to prepare for conflict themselves. So when we arrived in a ship designed for combat, Jake said slowly, they assumed we must be planning to use it for combat. Exactly, Helen said. But Captain, there's more. I've been analyzing their technology and their ship designs. These people aren't just peaceful. They're incredibly advanced in areas we never considered. They've mastered energy efficiency, environmental harmony, and social cooperation in ways that make our achievements look primitive. Helen showed Jake examples of alien technology that could heal diseases humans had never learned to cure. Engines that produced no pollution, and social systems that had eliminated poverty and conflict. The aliens were not weak or naive. They had simply evolved along a completely different path than humanity. Chief Petty Officer Tony Miller's suggestion to show the aliens the ship's manufacturing capabilities had planted the seed of the solution. While the aliens had initially misinterpreted the manufacturing bays as weapon production facilities, some of the alien scientists had begun to study them more carefully. The alien leader received a report from her science team that confused her greatly. The human manufacturing systems were indeed incredibly advanced, but they seemed to be designed primarily for creating tools, medical equipment, and life support systems rather than weapons. The alien scientists were puzzled by this discovery and asked for permission to investigate further. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos had been waiting in her shuttle near the alien station for hours, hoping for permission to dock and begin face-to-face negotiations. The aliens had been too scared to allow her to approach, but finally their curiosity overcame their fear. Human shuttle, you may approach docking bay 7, came the translated message from the alien station. Please move slowly and keep your weapons powered down. Maria smiled as she guided her shuttle toward the alien station. Weapons powered down was an interesting phrase, since her diplomatic shuttle was not armed with anything more dangerous than emergency flares, but she understood that the aliens needed reassurance. When Maria stepped out of her shuttle onto the alien station, she found herself surrounded by beings that looked like living art. The aliens were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow with soft light, and they moved like dancers even in the artificial gravity of their station. The alien leader approached Maria carefully, clearly still frightened but determined to try communication. Through their translation devices, she spoke the first words of true first contact. We do not understand why you have come here with such terrible weapons. Are we to be destroyed? Maria felt her heart break as she realized how badly humans had misunderstood the situation. She removed her helmet and knelt down to make herself less intimidating. We came here to explore and to meet new friends, she said softly. We never intended to frighten anyone. Our ship looks dangerous because we come from a place where space is dangerous, and we wanted to be prepared for anything we might encounter. The alien leader studied Maria's face and saw only sincerity and sadness there. You mean no harm to us? None at all, Maria replied. We humans build our ships strong because we learned that space is full of asteroids and radiation and other natural dangers. We carry weapons because we encountered pirates and raiders in our own space. We never expected to find people like you who had learned to live in peace. This conversation was broadcast back to both the human ship and the gathered alien fleet. For the first time since first contact began, both sides began to understand that they had been misreading each other completely. Captain Morrison made the decision that would change galactic history. He ordered all weapons on the Titan's Wrath to power down completely, leaving the massive ship defenseless but clearly peaceful. Then he sent a message to the alien fleet that Dr. Carter had carefully crafted in their own musical language. The message was simple. We are explorers from a dangerous part of space. We built our ship to protect us from natural hazards and hostile forces. We did not know we would find friends here. We wish to learn from you and share what we have learned. We offer our friendship and our protection if you will have us. Fee. Response from the alien fleet was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of ships began broadcasting musical replies, creating a symphony of welcome that could be heard across multiple star systems. The song spoke of joy, relief, and hope for a new friendship between species who had much to learn from each other. In the months that followed, the Titan's Wrath became exactly what Jake Morrison had hoped it would be: humanity's first step toward joining a galactic community. The ship's massive medical bays treated alien diseases that their own medicine could not cure. Its manufacturing systems produced tools and equipment that helped alien colonies thrive in harsh environments. Its powerful engines helped move asteroids that threatened alien worlds. The aliens learned that humanity's seemingly aggressive nature came from growing up in a solar system that had taught them to expect danger around every corner. Humans had developed technology and strategies for survival that the peaceful aliens had never needed, but which proved incredibly valuable when natural disasters struck or when old threats from the galaxy's dark corners began to stir again. Jake Morrison stood on his bridge 6 months later, watching human and alien ships working together to build a new space station that would serve as a meeting point between their civilizations. The galaxy's floating nightmare had become its newest protector, and humanity had found its place among the stars not as conquerors, but as the friends who came prepared for any trouble that might arise. The final irony was not lost on anyone involved. Humanity's reputation as dangerous warriors had spread so far across the galaxy that several ancient hostile species had decided to remain hidden rather than risk encountering the terrifying humans. Peace had been preserved not through weakness, but through the galaxy's belief that humanity was too powerful to challenge. As Jake watched the stars through his viewing window, he reflected on how first contact had taught both sides that strength and peace were not opposites, but partners in creating a galaxy where all species could thrive together.